Should you buy the Panasonic S1H in 2026 and beyond? In this video, I'm going to try to keep it brief. And I've used quite a few Panasonic cameras at this point. I was very fortunate to use the Panasonic S1H for 2 weeks. I rented it from Panasonic last December. And I'm going to give some thoughts. Firstly, I don't think that you should buy this camera in 2026. And the main reason for that is the autofocus. The autofocus in this camera is atrocious. It's worse than first gen Panasonic S5, S1. I'm not sure if my G7 from back in the day has better autofocus, but the autofocus is absolutely atrocious in the Panasonic S1H. It's unusable. And I think when you look at the market today and how newer Panasonic cameras, Sony cameras, Canon cameras, they all have incredible autofocus. As a solo creator, as a solo filmer, I don't think it's a good choice. Now, let's say you're a filmer. From my own experience, like doing a client shoot, it is very normal to use manual focus. And actually, when you do client shoots, when you do actual productions, using manual focus sometimes is more useful than autofocus because you have a lot of control over the subject of focus. And with that respect, it's a great camera. With that OLPF and that 6K full frame video, you're going to get a fantastic image. You really do need that autofocus in 2026, in my opinion. The stabilization in this camera is amazing. Stabilization in this camera is probably better than most new cameras. It's probably better than most Sony cameras. The video stabilization is so good, so buttery smooth. But with that autofocus, when you do run and gun shooting, you're screwed. It's just so bad. Okay, so now I got that rant out of the way. What is good about this camera? So when it was released in 2019, 2020, it was a beast and it was a really, really expensive camera. Now you can probably get this camera for around £1,100, £1,200, which is expensive, but it's still decent when you think about that incredible image quality that comes out of the S1H. You're getting this 6K full frame 10-bit image that has excellent stabilization, fantastic Panasonic color science, and still by today's standards, that image is just fantastic. A lot of people who use Sony say that the Panasonic image quality is just better. It is just hands down better. Even better than the Sony FX3, a newer camera. This camera is still a Netflix approved camera, and while people do debate on the validity of that list, it's true, it's a great camera. One thing that I really enjoyed with the Panasonic S1H is the feel. It's this really big, bulky body, and it's so nice to hold. I think it's probably the nicest camera I've ever held. It just when you hold it, it feels premium. And as a filmmaker, it's just a really nice camera to have in your hands. And you can tell it's very rugged. It's very strong, and it's built to last. So with my personal camera stuff, last year I upgraded to a Panasonic S9, which I'm shooting now. And honestly, this S9 is just a much more reliable camera than the S1H, even though it's a fraction of the cost. Now, when it comes to getting that best top-notch cinema camera, Netflix quality, image quality, perhaps it may be that side by side, the S1H might produce a slightly better image. It really depends on the settings you're recording. You have to record at the maximum resolution at 6K, open gate, etc. But the S1H, this camera, you can get this for I think £719, £720 or £800 discounted with the 20 to 60 kit lens. And the value for money is just so much compared to an S1H when it was new, 5-6 years ago, which is incredible. And other people on YouTube have reviewed and compared the S1H to newer Panasonic cameras. They know that there's a strong fan base for the S1H, but they're blunt and say, no, the S5 II is just better than the S1H. And using the S9, which is just a rebadged S5 II, I understand where they're coming from. It's just a more modern camera with the autofocus, stability, LUTs, just more features. It's a more reliable camera to use, and I think as a solo creator, being in front of the camera, behind the camera, you really need a camera like an S9 or S5 II. I think really where the Panasonic S1H falters, which a lot of people don't talk about, is the existence of the Panasonic S1. I personally bought my Panasonic S1 quite recently, and I recall comparing the S1H and the S1 side by side. The S1 is still quite a big beast to hold. It's got those S1H-ish features, and with the most recent updates over the years, it's essentially a rebadged S1H. I bought mine for only £500 as well, and yes, it doesn't have the OLPF, but you're still going to get some really, really good footage. On top of that, the stabilization is amazing, and I recall moments when I was using my S1 and I was thinking, damn, what is the point of buying an S1H when you can get an S1 which is 90-something% the same camera. So in conclusion, I know there is a bit of a cult following for the S1H, but truth be told, unless you're a filmer and you're going to only stay behind the lens, this isn't a camera I would recommend. Now, for £1,100, £1,200, you can just about buy a used Sony ZVE1, and that has that 12 megapixel sensor with excellent low light capabilities. That might be a better option for you if you're a filmmaker, and you're still going to get really good autofocus with it. You're not going to get as good stabilization. Even actually comparing that camera with the S1H, the S1H image quality might still be a little bit better, because that 5.8, 5.9, 6K footage is so sharp. It's just so nice and beautiful. And I think if you do have a studio, if you've got good lighting, if you can unlock the surrounding variables to get the best image out of the S1H, it's still like a beast to this day, even though it's 5-6 years old. But as I've mentioned in this video, when it comes to being a solo creator, you need that autofocus, and you need to be able to run and gun with the camera, and the S1H isn't one of those, unless you're okay with doing manual focus all the time. So yeah, subscribe, stay tuned for more videos.